It's important to state that the committee worked harmoniously with the executive arm of the government in the processing of this bill, which ensured the collaboration of the two arms in the utilization of additional revenue projection to fund or to improve the funding of some critical projects which could not be adequately funded in the budget project proposal submitted by Mr. President due to funding constraints. Consequently, the increase allows for interventions in critical areas such as national security, road infrastructure, mines and state development, health, social needs, water, among others. It is also in line with the budget thrust of government, which is focused on growing development and sustainable growth. The committee hereby recommends that the Senate do consider and approve as follows. 1. A bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 10,594,362,364,830 naira only, of which 560,470,827,235 naira only is for statutory transfers. 2,725,598,930,000 only is for debt service. 4,842,974,600,640 naira only is for recurrent expenditure, while the sum of 2,465,480,600,955 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st December 2020.
Or the super chairman and members of the Appropriation Committee. I also commend all the chairmen of the various subcommittees of the Appropriation Committee for the marching order to be sure that all the processes to get the Appropriation Act done are concluded within this given period. I also want to commend you, the President of the Senate, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives for the doggedness and the push to get this done at this period. When the pronouncement was made that we want to start the budget from a January to December cycle, was pronounced by you to all of us, some of us felt it was not a possible thing, it was like a gimmick. But today, from what I have seen, it has come to stay. And I believe by the time we take the clause-by-clause consideration and then possibly pass it today, then the Senate and indeed the National Assembly must have done their own bit of the work. But the Greek people used to say one thing. That means the child that is destined to die is never killed by the nurse, by the baby nurse. My prayer is this. By the grace of God, let us pass this one today, even if we stay till midnight. And then let us pass this baby and the clean water and the basin to the executive. So if the child will survive, if it will not survive, our hands are off. We are the baby nurse. We have done our delivery. So, Mr. President, I think even if it will take us to midnight today, we must endure to sit down here and finish it. And then we should all pray that the budget is fully implemented from January 1st to December 31st. Thank you very much, Mr. Senate President.
In commending the work of our Appropriation Committee and all the subcommittees of this Senate. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues,
Let me also say clearly that I support the early passage of this appropriation bill. Obviously, we've just come out of election. There are so many expectations. And because this is the first appropriation bill for this Senate, or indeed the National Assembly, the 9th National Assembly, it makes sense and for national interest that we pass this bill early enough. I believe, I'm saying in your mind, that this is the first time in a long time we are passing the budget before the end of the year. So it's indeed commendable. I'd like to thank the committee and indeed the leadership of the National Assembly for making this possible. Having said this, Mr. President, and without indulging on any second reading, let me just make a few comments and I'll take my seat. One is that in looking at this budget, there were a lot of constraints looking for money to finance a lot of projects. But if you look at the key assumptions, you can see that there are areas maybe we would have done better. And I do hope that next year we'll be able to do something about it. The first is the exchange rate. Between us, we know that there's no way in Nigeria you get dollar at 305. But we are using 305 as the official exchange rate. Regrettably, when we earn our revenue in dollars, the distribution is in naira. So I will find out that we end up shortchanging the levels of government. So it is either that we distribute the revenues to the states and local government and the federal government in dollars, or we accept an appropriate exchange rate of about 360 or 350. Because for every $1 we are losing about 60 naira using the $305 exchange rate. So this is something we need to engage the government, especially the finance ministry and the central bank, to adjust appropriately. The second is that we need to prioritize areas of concern. For those of us whose numbers were circulated on account of the hate speech bill, what you will recall is that most people who call you or send messages to you, they are talking about employment. So there's a whole lot of problem in that sector. So the next budget, we need to find a way of addressing the place. And then, of course, I'm just coming back from Madrid attending the UN Climate Change Conference. Nigeria has not shown sufficient interest in environmental issues, from desertification to coastal erosion to gully erosions to pollution. And if you look at the appropriation this year, we have about 9 billion for the whole of environment. The implication is that while I was in Madrid, I discovered that Nigeria is one of the only countries among our peers that doesn't have a pavilion because we could not provide $200,000. So if we are serious about such sectors, we must provide for them. The issue of environmental challenges is real. And so we must show seriousness in such sectors. And of course, we talk about security. We need to do something about it and provide sufficiently for those key sectors. And especially those the world are watching us, and then ensuring that we provide the atmosphere, correct atmosphere for people to go about their business by providing sufficient security. So I do hope that if we pass this budget, we'll start early enough to engage the government in some of these critical sectors and these assumptions, so that 2020 budget will be completely different from what we are passing today. So I move that this bill be fully considered and passed today.
And focus in trying to do what you have just done. And what you have done, Mr. President, is legendary. The action of today is indeed iconic, and for a very simple reason: having to change the paradigm shift. Paradigm shift in the sense that we are going to right the wrongs, ensuring that the budget starts when it ought to start, and so we can have a full year to have the budget implemented. I think it's a huge gain for this nation. But having said that, Mr. President, I want to commend the chairman of Appropriation Committee. The quantum of work that went into this appropriation bill is huge. 2 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, he was there always. And the secretariat, they did extensive work, and I want to commend them. And also, Mr. President, we must congratulate ourselves for one simple reason again, that this appropriation prioritizes what we are all clamoring for, and that is security. If you look at the budget, you will see that the security sector has the lion's share, so to say, of this budget. And the next is the infrastructural development. And so it's a well thought out, but we know that subsequent ones will be far better than what it is. And mainstreaming youth and women affairs, particularly youth affairs, was prioritized again on this budget. Mr. President, the paradigm shift is a welcome shift. And not just a welcome shift, I want to pray that my colleagues will support this committee so that subsequent ones will prioritize the need of Nigerians and ensure that those areas where we have gaps, we're able to close the gaps. And then we did start early so we can have the budget that will address our needs. Once again, Mr. President, I want to commend you, commend the committee, and urge my colleagues to support this one.
President, let me join my other colleagues in commending your leadership for the purpose for which we are here talking. Mr. President, you know that for quite some years in the past, it has been impossible, almost impracticable, for the National Assembly to pass the budget before on time, as we are doing today. Mr. President, this shows commitment on our part, all of us seated here, under your leadership. And I want to encourage you, Mr. President, that you continue to carry us along so that we'll continue to follow you with all commitment and seriousness so as to achieve for Nigerians. Mr. President, having said that, I support that we pass this budget today. But Mr. President, I want to make an appeal. There are housekeeping matters in the details of the budget which I believe that can only be attended to if we have an executive session after we would have passed the budget. Because it is important that we draw your attention to some of the issues that I have seen and noticed in the details, which to some extent affect all of us. So if Mr. President would allow, after we pass the budget, we can go into an executive session for the housekeeping issues so that we can address those issues. Otherwise, I'm in full support of the passage of this budget today. Mr. President, I so submit.
Senator Solomon.
Let me join my colleague in congratulating the Committee of Appropriation of the Senate for the job well done within a record time. Mr. President, when we came up with the idea that we want to return Nigeria to a budget cycle between January to December, not so many of us believe it is possible. But because of your leadership staff, you put everybody to work, and here we are today. We have the budget of the Federal Republic of Nigeria before us being considered. Mr. President, I want to thank the committee for working under a very tight parameters to ensure that the budget does not expand unnecessarily, but rather ensure that all parameters as contained in the medium-term expenditure framework were used as a benchmark in putting together these final documents. And for whatever we have seen from what was submitted or what was given to us today, has been initiative that has come from the passage of the finance bill, which this August gathering believes that we enhance the revenue drive of the federal government. And this, the committee also put into consideration at ensuring that every opportunity accruing to this nation must be put to the best use. I commend the chairman who, from the highlight of the bill, which you have stated, that is before us, that the aggregate expenditure is 10.5 trillion naira. And also the statutory transfer and all other items in the MTEF, Media of Expenditure Framework, the capital expenditure is 2.4 trillion. And what we have here in this document is the same 2.4 trillion naira. That shows the committee has worked within the parameters to ensure that they give Nigeria a budget that will work for all, a budget that will work for common man, a budget that will bring about dividend of democracy, and a budget that will take us to the next level. Thank you, Mr. President.
Leader of the Senate.
It's very short. All I would like to do, Mr. President, is to extend our gratitude and thanks. We want to extend our gratitude and thanks to all the senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria who really worked very, very hard. We do know, I know at one time when I'm coming out of my office around 10 o'clock, we find almost the entire parking lot filled. Senators work day and night to make sure that this budget sees the light of God, the light of the day within the time frame that we have set for ourselves. I congratulate each and every one of us, for this very patriotic work that has been done by this very highly distinguished and respected Senate. We thank everybody for the commitment and for the cooperation and for the hard work that has been done to bring us to this particular point in time. I would also, Mr. President, want to seize this opportunity, to thank the executive arm of government with the unprecedented urgency, that they presented the budget. They worked also day and night to give us the estimates on which we worked. We appreciated a lot of the work that had gone into this, and we hope that going into the 2021 budget, early preparations will be done, so that we can be able to achieve this feat and repeat it subsequently. We don't want to slack. We hope that going forward, the record that we have set is going to be sustained. I thank you very much, Mr. President, and I thank my colleague for a lot of work that they have been able to do to allow us to come to this point. I thank you very much for the President with the opportunity to have given.
Senator Roger.
For the very first time in the history of this nation, the budget has come at the time it should come. But let me congratulate all of us and join my colleagues in commending you for this quality leadership. But let me also remind all of us, there's no perfect being, and there can never be a perfect budget. But what is important is that the budget has been made, and this budget is made by Nigerians for Nigerians. What then is important now is the immediate execution of this budget. While we've taken the speed to present to Nigeria this budget, Mr. President, the issue of oversight should be non-negotiable to ensure that at least this budget meets the purpose for which it's meant. So I would, while commending this whole exercise, that we should remind the executive that this ninth Senate will take the issue of oversight more serious than it has ever taken, given the speed with which this budget is passed. And if this is done, it will be better for Nigeria. And I pray that we do not waste time anymore. Let's go ahead and do the needful and get this budget passed as quickly as possible. And if there are rules that we must relax, Mr. President, before the executive, to enable them carry out this budget as quickly as possible and ensure that the ordinary masses, ordinary people in Nigeria benefit from this, let us do it now. Because since we have changed the style all the way, let's change the style to get a better result for Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. President.
The
procurement bill, the finance bill, and everybody hit the ground running. Mr. President, the beauty of this budget can only be achieved, and for us to be happy if the executive on their own side implement the budget. If we implement the budget, by the end of December or October next year, when they are bringing 2021 budget, we might have seen the success of the 2020 budget. We are only appealing to our colleagues and all the committee that for this budget, for us to be able to tell Nigerians that we have excelled, oversight function is very, very, very important. Mr. President, I join my other colleagues to thank and
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished and respected colleagues, Senator Albert Bassi, Akwa Ibom Northeast. Mr. President, let me join my colleagues, the entire Senate, in thanking you and commending you for your focused leadership. Mr. President, if we cannot commend ourselves, then one begins to wonder how else we can move this country forward. Mr. President, like my colleagues had earlier stated, it's been decades upon decades where a budget is passed before the end of the preceding fiscal year. Mr. President, this is extremely very iconic, and I believe very strongly, Mr. President, that we have proven to Nigerians that whatever gets measured gets done. Mr. President, our leader, President Muhammadu Buhari, has no reason whatsoever to fail, because we have passed this budget within time. We have empowered him with all the laws that are necessary for the effective implementation of this budget for the good of all Nigerians. Mr. President, let me suggest, please, now that the budget has been passed and all the laws have all equally been amended, I think the focus will now shift on pursuing revenue to ensure that whatever we have passed here today, Mr. President, is implemented, because without money, the passage and all the effort that we have put in will come close to nothing. Therefore, Mr. President, I believe that all the committees that will bring about this revenue that will lead to the effective implementation of this budget must be up and doing. But I trust God, Mr. President, that with focused leadership, I believe that this budget will be effectively implemented and the impact will be felt by all Nigerians. Thank you, Mr. President, and God bless us all.
Leader of the Senate. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of Supply considered the report of the Committee on Appropriations on the 2020 Appropriation Bill and approved as follows. Schedules: Part A, statutory transfers as recommended. Part B, debt service as recommended. Part C, recurrent non-debt expenditure as recommended. Part D, capital expenditure as recommended. Clauses: Clause 1 to 5 as recommended. 6 as amended. 7 to 11 as recommended. 12 as amended. Explanatory memorandum as recommended. Short title as recommended. Long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of Supply? Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move
a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 10,594,362,364,830 naira only, of which 560,470,827,235 naira only is for statutory transfers. 2,700,000 125,498,930,000 naira only is for debt service. 4,842,974,600,640 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 2,465,418,006,955 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2020. Third reading taken and passed. Thank you very much, very distinguished colleagues. Distinguished colleagues, this wouldn't have been possible without the kind of effort all of you have put into processing the budget 2020. We cannot thank the National Assembly members enough, particularly very distinguished senators. When we came in, all of us approved our legislative agenda. And one of the important key pillars of this agenda is to ensure that we take back our budget cycle from the very undesirable cycle that could not even be defined to a cycle that could easily be defined and something that could easily be bought into by our country as a government and our business partners both within and outside the country. Today we have been able to achieve this. So it means where there is will, there will always be way. This is something that we have been able to achieve together with the House of Representatives. I must give members of the 9th National Assembly the credit, because we thought it was going to be impossible. But let me also commend the buying in of the executive arm of government. When we continue to preach that we must receive the budget 2020, the budget estimates, before the end of September or by September, it was not easy for the executive. I know they worked day and night. In fact, at one point they thought they could present it on the 30th of September, and that would have been a Monday, because they were in a hurry. They wanted to prove that they could make it in September, but that was not possible. So it was presented to us on the 8th day of October. We have been able to work very harmoniously, in the sense that we threatened, or we warned, we advised really, that no minister or head of agency should leave this country without defending his or her budget before leaving the country. And thank God, the President also issued a statement that all ministers and head of agencies must lead the delegation to the National Assembly to come and defend their budgets. This is the legislature working with the executive arm of government. And this is to the benefit of Nigerians. There is no way we can achieve this without all of us here working together. I want to commend our colleagues from the opposition. This Senate, from the beginning, we said it's going to be partisan. You have given us all the support that we require. And indeed, this is the way it should be. Because what we have done is not going to be only useful to people who support APC. It's for the entire country. And when we have good roads, or when our security operators are able to perform optimally, it's going to be to the benefit of all Nigerians, regardless of what they believe or who they are or what they are. So I want to congratulate all of us for this. I think we have done so much in a short while. We have given the executive today everything they need. We have given them the budget by passing it. We have given them the finance bills. We have given them the public procurement amendment bill. These are central to ensuring that the implementation of the 2020 budget is improved over what has been happening in the last few years. We also intend to go a little bit further to continue to interact with the revenue generating agencies on a quarterly basis. From January to March, we'll interact with revenue generating agencies. We want to see whether we can meet our targets and even go beyond. And if there are challenges, what are those challenges? Are there challenges that we as Parliament could resolve the issues for them so that they are able to be performing well? And if there are policies that are really hamstringing them, then we have to work together with the executive to ensure that they are free enough to do whatever it is that is their mandate. We will do that up to the end of the year 2020. We are going to interact with them closely because we believe that we can get more revenues than projected. The PSC, the production sharing contract that we have passed, is going to provide a lot of funds. The provision is for 160 billion from PSC, but we are likely to get about $2 billion. That will be around 500 billion, and that is going to reduce the deficit. I believe that the public procurement amendment that we did is going to provide a better climate for implementing the budget. Now it's possible that implementation will be faster, and of course we'll have more of our budget implemented than what we had before. We pray that the executive is able to implement this budget fully. We are going to do our oversight very, very well. We have so far given whatever it is that is necessary. The next thing for us is to ensure that we are able to track the performances of the MDS. And when we do so, we should be taking our pause at the plenary to ensure that we report what we see. Where we are expected or we need to intervene, we should do so. Where we need to step up pressure on those who may be dragging their feet in their assignments, we should do so. Because this we should be doing for the benefit of Nigerians. While we continue to work together with the executive arm of government, we must ensure that together we are able to deliver to Nigerians what Nigerians deserve and need today. With these remarks, once again I want to congratulate all of us here, and indeed our colleagues, the leadership of the House of Representatives and membership. And of course, we hope that we continue to work together with our colleagues in the House of Representatives in order to ensure that this budget 2020 is fully implemented. Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President.